Today, I want to talk about political ideologies, specifically left and right wing, and where Democrat and Republicans often fall in line with left and right wing ideologies. I had a lot of people tell me that I give a really good explanation that is fairly unbiased, but I do want to make sure that I do put my political biases out there so that you can understand that political bias is going to color how I talk about things and what I say. It also does color my education and my knowledge on certain topics. That being said, I do fall more right wing than left wing, but by comparison to the extreme right and the center, I do fall more in the center. So let me explain what that means with this video. You have a left wing ideology that means that people think that the government should be more involved in the day-to-day operations of the people, whereas the right wing thinks that the government should be less involved with the day-to-day operations of the people. I'm going to try to give you some good examples of what that looks like in an extreme sense, both socially and economically, which is two facets of how things are often separated politically and ideologically. With the left wing, you have a system that is more dictatorship, more fascist, where a single person or a group of people decide what a person can and cannot do. Under fascism, which is it often is combined with economic policies as well, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. I'm going to talk about the social implications more of socialism or with fascism right now. There's my political skew already coming out. Geez. So with fascism, you have the government controlling what you are and are not allowed to do and where you are and are not allowed to go. Now, why a lot of people vote in a fascist type of government is they would believe that they are safer. Benevolent fascist would be a good system of government. Good luck finding a truly benevolent person, let alone someone who would want to control an entire country who's truly benevolent. But under that fascist system, they think that if the government is protecting me and is looking out for my safety, I don't need to own a gun. That means that other people can't own guns because I can't own guns. So we're all on equal footing. And also, not only that, but the government will come in and step in to protect me if that's needed. They also will protect me from hurtful language and hurtful speech. The problem becomes often, as we've seen in historical context, that a fascist government, when they have power, they want to get more and more and more power. And that is at the detriment of the people. You will see with fascist governments, oftentimes political discourse is cut off and you may be killed just for holding an opposing view on that the government actually is disinterested in protecting its citizens. And so the physically stronger will prey on the physically weaker, even though they are equally armed. A person who knows martial arts or someone who is physically stronger can just kick down a door and beat the crap out of somebody, and they'll take whatever they want and run away. Now, the government is supposed to persecute those people, but they're too busy finding people that are against the government to bother with the simple robbery. And that's what you often find under a fascist style of government. Now, that being said, it would seem that, well, if the left is this, if the extreme on the left is this bad, then the extreme on the right has to be better. That is completely untrue, unfortunately. What you see in the extreme right is a more anarchistic type of government where there are no laws, there is no government. And so everybody has an arms race. They get more and more powerful weapons to protect themselves because more and more people are just fighting over resources. Someone kicks down your door and they have a machine gun. Well, you're going to want a rocket launcher. And it just keeps on going more and more extreme from there. Why? Some people would vote or try to enact a anarchistic type of government is they think that there would be an initial period of extreme violence, that it would settle down and people are more capable of governing themselves as opposed to somebody else. There is some merit to that ideology, but there's a reason why anarchy is never enacted in political government. One being people want power. Two being it doesn't really work that way because laws are going to be implemented unfairly. Racism and bigotry are going to be a driving force in how those laws are, or rules or injustices would be punished. So a black person who commits a crime may be killed, whereas a white person who commits a crime may just lose a hand. The other problem is it's completely up to the person who is enacting that type of justice, which is not a person who is appointed. It's just you. Someone breaks in your house, you decide what to do with them. And then you can decide to break into somebody else's house, and you may or may not have any repercussions. So it is a completely free to do whatever you want type of society, but you also are free to experience whatever repercussions that is. A really good example of what anarchy would look like is the Fallout video games. If any of you have played those, if not, you can find plenty of videos, and it would be, I think, pretty much exactly like that. Without any kind of government structures to help control and maintain society, it would fall apart almost completely. I do want to talk some about also the economic left and the economic right, and in the other extremes, and how bad those both things can be. Talk about on the left, you have a communistic style of government. Now, I don't want to get into people saying that it has never been done right or not. That is your opinion. I'm going to stick away from that. But under a communistic type of government, the economic policies of that government are that the government controls every single thing in the economic. So you don't have any property, you don't have any businesses, you don't have business owners, you just have a person who happens to be in charge of the minute details, and oftentimes that is just a government official. Now, people allow themselves to be under a communistic type system because they think that that will offer them more stability in their economic life, because the government is setting a price on what somebody is allowed to charge. They're setting a price on what somebody is allowed to be paid, and it is completely equal across the board. In practice, that shows that these people who are paid the same, no matter how good or bad a job you do, they end up not working as hard. And now this person's not working hard. Well, the other person has to work either harder, or they're going to work even less hard so that they can get paid the same amount while doing less work, because there's no way to make more money. And you find in oftentimes communist countries, they fall apart because people aren't willing to pick up the slack. On the opposite side of that, you would have a completely unregulated free market, which run amok would look much like dystopian futures where instead of governments, you have businesses that control everything. The problem is, inevitably, under a completely free and unregulated market, you have a business, a single entity, a single corporation that actually controls every single aspect of your day-to-day lives, which would look even more left than it would right, ironically. But instead of a government, it is a business. Under that system, though, the problem is the business can decide to pay you nothing. They can decide to put addictive chemicals in whatever food or whatever drinking water. They can ruin the environment without any fear of legal repercussion because there is no laws against it. They can pay you nothing because there's no laws against it. And they can put addictive chemicals in whatever they want because, again, there are no laws against it. And the business that is willing to be the most corrupt, the most evil, invariably will be the one that ends up coming up on top. So you have basically this giant, inevitably evil corporation who controls every aspect of life. Now, why people may be in favor of this is because they believe that people as a whole are inherently good, and they will not allow themselves, they will not put money into that evil corporation. They will vote with their dollars, and they will say, hey, look, I'm not going to buy from you, evil corporation. I'm going to buy from good McGoodingstein corporation. Unfortunately, in practice, that doesn't work either. That's why companies like Walmart, who are known to pay their employees crap wages and treat their employees like garbage in social media and stuff like that, as a whole still exist. Now, I know that Walmart has done a lot better after that social media campaign against them has come up, which might be another reason why they are still in business. But it's important to understand that there is, on the extreme right, there is no way for economically for that to thrive. I do want to mention and explain what these types of left and right wing ideologies, how those apply to American politics specifically. A lot of people are under the misconception that Republicans are on the right and Democrats are on the left, without taking into account that there are different facets of how you can be left or how you can be right, as I mentioned before, both economically and socially. And you do find, at least in my own personal experience, Republicans economically are much more right wing than left wing, and Democrats are reverse, which is economically they are more left wing than right wing. And you would think that they would be the same socially, but that is, in my opinion, more reversed. It's a little bit more skewed socially, and they're both more in the middle socially as well. They have certain aspects of each on each side of the political party, and I want to get into explain at least a little bit about that. On the Republican side, economically, they do encourage more freedom for business. It does kind of apply somewhat to how they want to handle the underprivileged and poor. Instead of offering them welfare services that are paid for by corporations or the wealthy, they prefer that a poor person would be economically able to start their own business at a low cost and compete with a larger corporation just as easily. In practice, that doesn't always work out as well as we would hope. Obviously, if you ever try to start a business, it can be very, very, very difficult, especially in the face of a larger corporation right next door. Socially, though, they do fall, in my opinion, more left as opposed to right, or at least on the topics that I care about the most. For example, they are anti-abortion, they are anti-gay marriage. More recently, that has changed, but that's more about being on the correct side of history. They are also more anti-drug use. They're more pro-gun and pro-self-defense, though, so that is a more right-wing ideology. Democrats are obviously the opposite of that. The way that Democrats would rather handle the poor economically is by forcing businesses to hire underprivileged people, to have a more diverse cast, which can be a great benefit to someone who is underprivileged, who does come from a predominantly oppressed culture. Because when you're poor, it is very hard for you to get out of that, or at least harder for you to become rich when you started poor. Also, they want the government to be more involved. Instead of allowing someone to pull themselves up, the Democrats would like to push them up with money taken from taxes and the wealthy. Socially speaking, Democrats are actually more right-wing, which means less involvement governmentally. They are pro-gay marriage. They are pro-abortion. You will find much more Democrats that are pro-legalization of drugs, or at the very least pro-decriminalization of drugs, meaning that you should be able to do what you want with your body as long as you're not interfering with somebody else. But they are very anti-self-defense. They are very anti-gun specifically. And so there is a little bit of a mix with that. And it's important to kind of understand a little bit on where you fall so that you know kind of what you're voting for. I specifically do not mention specific politicians, and it is important for you to do your own due diligence with what each politician is and where they stand. I do want to mention also the benefit of having these two diametrically opposed parties arguing with each other. A lot of people think that, well, the Republicans and Democrats, all they do is argue. Well, that's actually, I think a great thing for the benefit of our society, because it allows a extreme left and extreme right to be less and less and less possible, because you have one side pulling while the other side's pulling, putting us more into a central. As I mentioned before, extreme views on either side is always bad for the population of a country. It also allows for forces both sides to come to some kind of middle of the road agreement. If any law is to be passed, there has to be some kind of give and take relationship. So everybody can kind of win, or at the very least, more people are allowed to be winning. I can't own a rocket launcher for self-defense, but I can't own an AR-15. And I am allowed to actually kill somebody if they break into my house, which is more fair than just chasing somebody down and killing them because I thought that they might harm me later on. So there is a definite balance in the American legal system by comparison to some other countries. And I think that is a result of our two-party system, although I do very much support more parties coming into the fold. At least we do have a diametrically opposed system. That being said, I think it's really important that you don't just listen to me. I'm just some guy with some funny glasses on the internet, and I do have my own biases. I recommend that you look at other people with the opposite biases I have at the very least, and also do some own internet research. You can search on Google to find out how accurate or inaccurate I am. Without anything else to say, though, I'd like to thank you guys for watching and spending the time watching this video. And I hope you have a fantastic day. If not today, try again tomorrow. End of video.